Shoo, it connected. Okay. Okay, it's live. I thought it wouldn't connect. Jesus Christ. Breathe in, breathe out. Dumelang kaofela. Dumelang ko gae. My name is Katleho Buntle Mutingwe, and welcome to the Around the Table Conversations. And somebody's already saying, yeah, bad connection. Like, man, gosh, okay. I'm not going to get depressed. Jeez, I don't want to get depressed over network. But welcome to the Around the Table Conversations, guys. Network is a bit tricky today, so if we do experience any bad connections, please do bear with us. We will try our level best to keep the conversation going, to make sure that we are all connected. Mara network, guys, and there's nothing we can do at some point. We will just see how we go about it. Thank you, Tando. Ati angsemuhle. Okay, let me do the right things on the show. Ngiyabonga guys for tuning in. Today's our second last show, and I'm so glad that we've gotten this far. I'm so glad that we've been having conversations more than anything, and I'm happy at the outcome overall. I'm happy that people actually do want to talk. Hello, Kiba. Hello, Lebu. I see you guys. I'm happy that people do want to listen to us as well. I think that's the most heartwarming thing ever. And when you look back on all the shows, there are days when I'm like, oh my God, like, do I have to do the show? I'm tired. I've had like the most terrible day and so forth, but we've run this race and we are almost at the end, and we are very excited with what we brought to the table as well. With all the guests that we've had, my co-hosts, like I could go on and on about Around the Table, but ATT has been very special with the season, Thokoza Gogo Makoli, I see you. Oh, Bafowami, I see you. Yes. Thokozani bogogo nabo Mkhulu. I see a lot of my spiritual sisters as well that have connected, and I'm just really, really excited about today because it's something that's close to home that I've had to discover along the way, and I've had to do a lot of learning myself, So conversation here today is not just about me, but it is about my other brothers and sisters, you guys that are out there that probably have questions and that are probably confused about so much as well, And before I go anywhere, yes, guys, I'm well, I'm alive. I know I did put out that I tested positive for COVID, but I don't have any symptoms. Anguli, I'm taking my vitamin intake, and I'm drinking umhlonyane with garlic, lemon, and ginger. It's the ugliest thing ever, but we do what we gotta do, you know what I mean? So yes, guys, I'm well and alive. Please just make sure you guys are safe. I know it's difficult for some people to stay home. I know Gumnandi, we still want to go out and see our friends and all of that, But yeah, guys, we are here, and we are dealing with the things that we need to deal with. Thokozani Bokoko, I see you, Thokoza Tembi, and our regular, hi Pumla, but before I waste any time, let me introduce my co-host. Last week I wasn't here to host with him, so I did miss him a bit. Hello, Brucey, and we're both in red. Oh, wow. Hello.
Hey, Thokoza Koko, Ngxande.
How are you? Ay, Thokoza Mkhulu, siyaphila, singezwa ngani. I'm amazing.
You're right. I'm glad to see you.
Why do you decide to
you were
wear
missed last week, but I'm glad that you're here, even though Ukula.
Sure.
Actually, Ukula, you are okay, right? You are okay. Ukula. Let's just put it out there. Yeah.
I'm fine.
You know, please don't go around saying Ubuntu yakula. No, Ubuntu kakuli. She's isolating herself. She's fine, and I promise you, she's still gonna live long. She's still gonna be with us, even though it's the last episode of the men's segment tonight. But it's not because Ubuntu yakula. Please, ningathi sesiqeda around the table ngoba Ubuntu yakula. No.
COVID. How was the show last week? Geez, I mean, the funniest thing is that as I landed, the first thing I did before I could even get out of the plane was put on my headsets, and I was already listening to the show. I was like, I cannot miss it. And it was such a beautiful show. Like, you guys handled it so well. You had amazing guests, and geez, man, like, it was just so mind-blowing. There was a point where it went on lo because somebody's battery, something happened, but I think it was an amazing show, but I just want to know, what are the 3 things that stood out for you, Bruce, from last week's show? I mean, it was about mental health, so what stood out for you?
Last week's show was amazing. Shout out to Tando for stepping in and holding it down with me.
Thank you, Tando.
We had amazing guests. We had amazing guests. Shout out to them one more time. Thinking about mental health, it's those conversations that we don't have day in, day out.
Sure.
When you are stressed or whatever, you are depressed. I want to say about you are broke or whatever, but they don't understand the things that come with depression and whatnot. So last week's show was really, really an eye opener in a lot of things. I mean, one thing that also stood out for me, I think the first one was that epilepsy is also part of the, brain disorders or mental disorders, where we didn't know about these things. I think me and Tando were like, wow, all the time when we were told about that. And then the other thing is that there's so many disorders that a lot of people don't know. There's so many disorders that come into mental health. Yeah, it was a broad topic. Okay. And the third thing is that we, as the young people, that we need to take initiative. We need to take the conversation into bigger platforms. Because us talking about it only here on Facebook or only on social media doesn't help much. We need support from the government, like what they're doing now with COVID. They are trembling. They are sending communications. They're sending budgets, but there's no budgets for mental health and whatnot. So we need that. And even the World Health Organization is not really much helping in terms of campaigning for the mental issues. It's only really in one day.
It's not campaigning. You know what I mean? I think more than anything, it is maybe they're not speaking enough. But maybe let's refrain from saying they're not campaigning, because there is work that they're doing, you know what I mean? So it's maybe finding solutions, or maybe approaching them, if we do have any solutions, on how they can reach our communities, because yes, we know that, I mean, because we're all going into the digital era, some information doesn't get to other people. So it's about how do we access that information, and how do we make sure that we get it across to our communities, But thank you guys. You guys held it down. And I think, I mean, in season 2, there's a lot that kind of also needs to be unpacked again. So we will find ways with carrying on with those conversations, So yeah,
Absolutely.
Well done.
Absolutely.
But
thank you. We miss you and welcome back.
Thank you, guys. I missed you too. And our 2 guests today. This one, Mkhulu, like, when people know, yeah, man, I'm that bay, but I don't know him personally, and we've had our interactions on social media, but I think he's got such a beautiful aura, his spirits, just everything about him, his quirkiness on social media too, Mr. Makhanya. How are you, Makhanya? Thokoza Mkhulu.
Thokoza Mkhulu.
Ninjani?
Siyaphila, ninjani Mkhulu?
Amangamabi siyaphila, siyabonga.
Oh, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the
show. Is my reflecting bad on the screen?
No, it's not. It's not bad. It's just we've got an echo from you. But we'll work around it. Yeah. Yes. Okay, great. Our next guest is another Mkhulu who's got an amazing story to tell as well. Please, can you just mute Mkhulu so that we don't get the feedback? Yeah. Thank you. Mkhulu, Thokoza.
Thokozani, everyone. How are you? Sorry, I was checking my mic. How's everyone? No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm warm.
Oh,
more than anything
that's
else,
good.
I'm warm. Yes.
Oh no,
yes.
that's amazing.
Amakaza walunganga. We all need to
No. Not during this time, no. So
no.
Thank you very much for the invite, guys. It's really awesome.
Thank you for taking your time and being with us. We appreciate you both, gentlemen. We know you guys may be busy with something else, but you took your time to be here and doing this show with us. And then I'm really excited to be talking about this because it's some of the topics that young people don't have each and every day, So, and I'm glad Nobutu Bontle is here for this one. So, thank you.
Oh, Mkhulu, are you that cold?
He's bringing Italy. like he's bringing stomach.
Yeah, it's swag.
He's bringing a Charlie, like we are here for serious business.
No, yeah. It was reflecting badly on the camera.
No. You were fine. Sorry, guys.
I love those moments. I saw another one on the news today when someone comes in from the background there.
Yeah, no. Hey, my daughter, she doesn't understand why she can't come into the room and why she can't sit with me. So she comes in and she stands at the door. Mama, whether I'm on the phone or it's a meeting, like she's just that one person that's always behind me. So I was just giving her teddy to say, "Nah, teddy bear, you can go and do your thing."
Shame.
Yeah. But anyway, so we've got an icebreaker before we start the show. Before you introduce yourselves to our guests, I'll start with you, Mkhulu Makhanya. How do you like your eggs?
I don't like eggs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's if you had to eat eggs.
Sorry?
I knew that was coming.
Okay. No, it's allowed. So that's okay.
It's allowed.
Eggs, but ngithanda amakuku. So hey, ngilithanda maliphakathi kwabakuku,
Yeah. Okay. No, Gacha, you really kept me laughing since testing. But anyway, we appreciate your answer. Vusmuzi, and what's your preference of your eggs if you do eat eggs?
Sunny side with evo and chilies.
Okay.
Like this.
All right. Okay.
A little runny, it must be a little wet, Kanj.
Okay. Oh, so you like things general?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bruce, and what's your preference?
I really like them scrambled. I really enjoy them scrambled. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I have my days. I do like my eggs a bit runny. Not too runny though, not too wet. So yes, Vusi, not too wet. But because my kids love scrambled eggs, I kind of have fallen into the scrambled eggs brigade lately,
Yeah.
But I'm such a fan of an omelet. Like, I find I don't make the best omelets, but I make I call them crumbled omelets. You know what I mean? As long as it's in omelet form and it's got everything it needs. Yeah, no, then I'm that girl, I experiment with my food, so it's normal. It's okay for me, So yeah. But anyway, just a quick intro. Mkhulu, please can you just give our viewers a bit of background on who you are? And then Vusi, you can follow suit just after that.
I was born in Makhanya from Soshanguve, Pretoria. And after I got initiated into Ubongoma, then my name became Mkhulu Makhanya. So yeah, I'm a healer. I love sharing on spirituality. I love learning as well. Yeah, it's basically me. So we do retreats, workshops, and yeah, normal day-to-day healers work, consultation, yeah, all that.
Amazing.
Sure.
Great stuff.
Vusi?
Babusi, the floor is yours.
The floor. Vusmuzi, Ngxande. I'm a creative. That's as basic summary I can give. And I am a person who is searching. I'm a seeker, and I am currently exploring African spirituality, and I do that in many forms through photography, through writing, through film, and I also have a podcast about my journey. So yeah, that's
What's the name
about
of the
it.
podcast?
The Journey Kwantu.
The Journey Kwantu. Okay, let me
Yeah,
put it up.
.co.za.
The Journey Kwantu.
Yebo.
And what normally do you speak about on your podcast?
It's basically I'm asking questions about African spirituality. Basically, it's about how did we come to believe what we believe. You know, it's not about ubungoma. It's not about a calling. It's not about becoming a healer or anything. It's just general questions that I think I have and many people many other people have. So then I just investigate questions like, for example, the last episode that I did was on the history of surnames. Because a lot of the time when you speak about spirituality, there's questions about, am I using the right surname? What's the right surname? But I basically looked into what are actually surnames and how did surnames come about? What is the history? What was there before surnames? Right up until how we got to our current understanding of so it's basically things like that. I just pick certain topics and I dig into the history and the background on that.
Speaking on surnames, I was having a conversation about Africanism as I was doing research for the show from Utulani, and because he's somebody who's also a seeker and does a lot of research around Africanism, so I don't even know if we are using the term correctly in saying Africanism, talking about being African and the spirit altogether. However, he spoke about how we as Africans still are lost because we a lot of our surnames, I'll use Grootboom as an example because he gave me that example to say back then the Caucasians or the whites or the Boeras could not say Mkhulu. So the translation there was Grootboom, and that is how a lot of people then, Black people ended up with surnames that sound Afrikaans, like your Grootbooms and your Plaatjies and all of that stuff, So what is Africanism? What does it mean when people talk about Africanism? Siqala kuphi?
Who's that question for?
It's anyone can take it. Makhanya, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think for me, look, awareness starts with where you are. What is your name? The story, circumstances around your birth. You ask why were you named who you were, the name you were given, and then, okay, if Umpo, okay, why, and then you first hear the story of mom or whoever gave you the name, and then from there you go to the surname. Why is my surname Makhanya and not Funiza, for example? And then there's a story behind the surname, and then uzongena kuyithakazela, and then the rabbit hole then goes deeper. So for me, the starting point is self, so that we don't have a situation where the concept of Africa or African spirituality or African politics, African food, African economics, anything African becomes a purely academic experience, but it's not rooted in the self or is not connected to the self. So for me, it starts, with who you are. Yeah.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of people obviously would probably say, where do I start in finding myself? You know what I mean? I'm using so for me, my example is that my surname is my dad's stepdad, so my step grandfather, right? Where because his mom got married, he then took the surname because umama ushatile, washata no mama, and now he's using the surname. Whereas there is his surname, which is Mpulukeng for this matter. So mawenza izinto ezifana like ukubika edlozini, the child or who you are, or trying to figure out who you are. Where do you start in terms of izinto eziso? You know what I mean? And you also find that some people are not even using their father's surnames, they're using their mother's surnames. What does it mean for somebody who's trying to figure out the self?
Can I answer that from a historical point of view? Then maybe Mkhulu then can take it from a spiritual point of view, or from that angle. I was asking the same questions myself, but then what I wanted to understand a bit deeper was beyond using the right surname, right? Because I think a lot of the time when we want to talk about what's the right surname and what's not, it's within the context of I want something and something is not happening. And if I use the right surname, then certain things will start happening, within my life. But my thinking was that there are many people who are using the right surname whose lives are a mess. There are many people who are using their father's surname and there are things still as Tlangan, So what I wanted to understand is the basis beyond what the surname can do for you. So and what I mean by this is that your surname is not necessarily like a lotto ticket. You know what I mean? It exists outside of your problems, because your problems are very current. They're not like life spanning. You know what I mean? You're facing certain challenges now. But what is your surname to you across generations? What is your surname to your grandfather, to your great grandfather, to the very first person? What does your surname carry? And what is it when you hand it over to your descendants? What is it that you're handing over? Because you're not necessarily handing over the lack of problems, because it doesn't mean that you're not going to have problems if you're using the right surname. Or it doesn't mean that if you're using the wrong surname, it doesn't necessarily mean that your life will always be bad. Because things come and go. And the reason why I wanted to target that particular topic, especially for people who have a calling, is that don't base everything just on the surname, because your surname might come with its own baggage, which is the case that I found with my surname. It can bring, you might say you want to use the right surname, and you actually find that the right surname is very complicated. It has a very conflicted history. It has a lot of things that you now have to deal with. You have to do a lot of repair work, So before saying that I want to use the right surname for the purpose of my life working out, usually materially, just be aware that there's a lot more to it, and you have to be prepared not just to carry the benefits of it, but the whole weight of what the legacy of the surname is. So that's my take from a historical point of view.
Okay. Sorry, before Mkhulu Makhanya, you come in, I just want you to also please unpack for us what are some of the baggages that young people or anyone could face when they're taking on a surname. Say you are choosing your mother's surname or your father's surname. What are some of the baggages that one would then encounter in their journey of using that surname as well?
Are we there, over?
Yes, you are here, Makhanya.
Oh, excellent. Pravi has put it very, very, very well. Obviously, with names or with surnames, it's about picking up the karma. The karma is the spiritual history of the surname. So so that's the first thing. The second thing would be a question of alignment. Go to what energies are you aligning yourself to, or what kind of energies is one aligning themselves to? Ancestors, for example, maternal, paternal, serve as our foot soldiers, as we normally put it in our practice.
Yes.
They are there to help facilitate this experience called life. So they, as Bravi said, they both come with good and bad. I wrote 2 days ago that the word ancestor does not necessarily mean good. So you have to then, to a certain degree, respond to both the good, the bad, and the ugly. But outside of that, there's also the self, that is carrying the unique story of self, and one's soul journey, to say, then how do I align or integrate my story to my history, to where I'm from. So for me, look at Black people in America. Their roots are in DRC, in Ghana, but they use white people's surnames, and as Brad is saying, some of them, their lives are really good. They're really doing well. So for me, surnames matter, but they are not the all and be all.
So I hear you. So my next question then comes from a point of what the Western ways that have kind of influenced our way of living. You know what I mean? And from me saying that it's okay, I'm going to put it from a male point of view. Ne? I'm not male, yes, I'm aware, but from a male point of view, it's saying, as a man, ne, my surname is Makhanya, for instance. Makhanya. So my surname is Makhanya, and now because we have been raised to be a man, and it's like how bokamutu, or when you call ubaba sekhaya or your partner or whatever, umbiza ngesithakazelo sakhe, and it's like you're saying that isithakazelo has to do a lot with the self, you know what I mean? How do we deal with those type of stereotypes within our communities and our societies? Because I don't think a lot of people kind of engage as to why mele ungibize ngesithakazelo, you know what I mean? Or why mele ungibize ngesibongo type of thing. So from the African way of living, it is said that it is respectful, you know what I mean? But now that Vusi has said that there's so many things that come with a surname, and a surname doesn't really have to kind of be the end and be all of you and define you, I'm a bit confused. I don't know if I'm asking the right question, how does that affect us within our communities and raising either young men or the men generally in our society? Vusi?
Okay. Let me put it this way, in that there's two sides to this. Ne? The one thing is that surnames are not African. First and foremost, they're not African in the way that we understand them today. They're not African. They came about when colonization happened. It's a mode of it's a naming system that comes from Europe, right? But before then, we used itagaze, right? That's where that's the, for me, in my understanding, that's the main difference that we have to understand, is that when for example, when the missionaries came, right, the certificate of baptism became like the ID. Okay, for the colonial government to recognize you, you needed to be baptized as a Christian. And if you can imagine that, if at that time, when you had to write down, when you had to be baptized and you had to write down what your name is on the baptism certificate, back then you were using their fathers' names as surnames. For example, I can give you like a popular example being like Ushaka Zulu. The fact that Shaka Zulu's surname was not Uzulu, you know what I mean? he was named after his father, who was Usedzangakakon, right? So when people were then told by the missionaries that we need a name and a surname, a lot of Black people actually didn't know what the surname was supposed to be. So some people did use their father's first names, that is, not because no one had a surname. Some people would use their clan names. Some people would use bits and pieces of Itagazelo. They would pick one component of Itagazelo and turn that into a surname. And by this, I'm saying that we didn't have a formal system of coming up with a surname. Your surname didn't come about the same way as my surname came about, for example. It came up, it literally came down to whoever it is that had to be baptized in your lineage, and they asked him, what is your surname and what are you going to put down? And at that very moment, that person had to decide at that moment, what is my surname? You know what I mean? And because there was no formal system of deciding, it could have been anything, right?
Sheesh.
So that's why you need to understand the difference between Itagazelo, because Itagazelo then carry a history. It's not just your surname; it carries the history. For example, how Itagazelo can come about. For example, let's say there was like a broader village, right? That was named, let's say, Amazulu, because Amazulu were also a tribe. They were not necessarily an entire people like we know now, right? And then one person from that tribe would decide, for whatever reason, now I'm tired of this community, so I'm actually going to go off and start my own community. Or they would be disgruntled, and it usually be like maybe the relatives of the king or whoever, someone in charge, right? So that person would then take their small little group. Let's say Mkhulu Makhanya takes his group of family and friends and whatever. They're like, oh no, guys, I don't like how things are run in this place, so let's go off somewhere else. So then they would go off and travel, and then wherever they would settle, right, they would then name themselves after their leader. They would call it Makhanya, for example, right?
Yeah.
And then Makhanya, they traveled over a certain mountain, right? And then they would be called Makhanya Basentabeni, and they had to cross a river, you know, and then it would be Makhanya Basentabeni Mifuleni. And, you know, it then would carry the history of who were the first people, what did they experience? Were they in a war? Did this happen? Did that happen? Okay. So then that becomes your family encyclopedia. So that's why it is very important, I believe, that even especially in spirituality, that you need to understand your Itagazelo, not just as a sense of belonging, but then it gives you a sense of your history, because it's not a history that anyone living right now can tell you, because no one living right now can tell you where your people began.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no one can tell you that. But if you track Itagazelo, for some people, you can actually, some are like coordinates, like Batlaping. You can literally, people who belong to the Batlaping tribe can literally go to a very, very specific place, and they know this is where our people, this is where the name came about, and this is where our people, you know what I mean? So that is where the difference between Itagazelo and a surname. A surname is a very current thing, but it's not necessarily something that is not important. It is very important, especially in the lineages or the members of the lineage that you're closer to in terms of like time, like your parents, your grandparents, and whatever. But Itagazelo is something that is valuable across millennia. Like it goes back hundreds of years, you know. So then
just happened. Sorry to interject. Mkhulu, just happened. I mean, it could be network. I know everybody's having network issues, right? My next question would have come from a point, Yobungoma, to say, I mean, Maungena into this world, I'll call it a world, right? Because it does become a different world for a lot of people. And okay, I see he's back there. Right on time. So I was asking Mkhulu Uguti. So my next question would have then come from a point of Ubukoma to say, you know, when you go into this world, right? You are then told Ubiza Ibongo Zagin, right? So Ibongo Zagin could be whoever the Mutingwes or the Mpulukengs or the Twalas and the Kubegas and because like you're saying, it becomes some sort of coordinate somewhere, somehow. Mara in that, ne, and the reason I'm saying this is because this is where the spirituality element comes in, or what I understand for it to come in. Mausebungomeni or mausephehlweni, right? You call all these surnames, bonke labogogo, bonke labomkhulu, you know, abogogo abasegangeni, abasentabeni, abasemandleni, and whatnot, and whatnot, and whatnot. You know what I mean? How does that link to the lineage of your surname, you know, or figuring out who you are? So at what point do you know Uguti, man, using the correct surname? You know what I mean? Figure in your dreams, and they say whatever they want to say. And if at any point I am given Makhanya as a surname, it might be as part of my initiation, or you know what I mean? Ngamazi who this Makhanya person is. How do we make sense of all of that?
So in my little experience in the space Yobungoma, is that your name and your surname serve as a springboard towards the ultimate purpose or core business of what you came into the institution for.
Sure.
I'm sure you see some people go Ebungomeni and you get there and you say, okay, it's all like and then they would take you through the process, your gadget. And then you discover that this person actually has connections with Indians. This person has connections with colors. And so many other things come up. So that paints a picture to say Makhanya serves as a basis upon which history, both physical history, emhlabeni, you know, and the cosmic history can base itself, you see. So it also shows us we are more than Mpomakhanya, you know. For example, some ancestors from the Nguni lineage that I carry are around 7, the ones that I know. Okay, that be the gift of Ungoma. And then if you gonna go Ndao Limangmang, I counted about 3. If you want to go into Koditabe and Kwale, you know, there's 2. So it shows you that you are a multi-dimensional being who's connected to many beings, many histories. So you are just this one person that various forms of stories and histories are trying to find expression and meaning through your life as in Mpomakhanya in this particular time frame, time space, this particular incarnation. So in as much as it's important for me to know myself as Mpomakhanya, I need to also take into cognizance that that is just a part of me, but that is not the entire story about me. So I want us to begin to learn to have that, I don't know whether to call it multiple sensitivity to the fact that we are more than just this one person. We are more than just one.
Yes.
You see that? And that's how I got to appreciate it. I mean, you know?
I've got 3 names.
No, when I and I only had one name, and it bothered me. Why am I Mpomakhanya? But I thought because people have a lot of names, I only have one, so that makes me cool, and I got to appreciate it. But lo and behold, after you get initiated, you get a new name, and so I had a second name for the first time in my life. And what that did then was broaden my identity, was broaden my understanding of self, even my outlook towards the world, towards others, and towards spirituality. So some traditions, I mean, Arabs or the Jews, I mean, you would get them 7 names, 14 names, you know. So they are born with awareness that they are part of a larger story. And yeah, that's where it takes you now. You're going to tune to cosmic spaces to say, who are you before you were you? Woo, all those deep things. But yeah, we are more than just one thing.
Speaking on that, we see a lot of our brothers and a lot of our sisters. More, I don't know, maybe it's just males don't post as much, right? But I'll say the Gen Zs, which is the millennials, that are going into ubungoma, and myself included. And in all of that, there's a lot, man, that comes into play. There's Christianity, there's either parents that believe, that don't believe. But because I'm an individual, right, I'm trying to find myself. I'm going on this journey. Some way or the other, I need my parents. You know what I mean? Because I need their blessings. They know better than I do and whatever. Ne? Now, the Gen Zs are very open about ubungoma, right? And this calling, you've got the different gogos that call themselves names that are on social media. Some are using social media as platforms from them to grow and teach others and so forth. Why is it now? And I don't know if you have the answer for this, ne? But in such a way, because society and the community at large now thinks it's a trend and fashion, you know what I mean? How do we answer to those questions to say, why are we being called? Why is there so many of us being called now? Does that mean a lot of us are going through a phase where we are finding ourselves? Does it have to do with the moon and its alignment? Does it have to do with, there's so many questions around fashion of accepting your calling or ubungoma. Why now? What's happening now from a spiritual point of view? Mkhulu?
Are you taking that, Pravi? Is it for me?
You can take it, Mkhulu. I mean, Uvusi can answer after.
No, I'll answer.
I think that it is okay that we are going through what we are going through. Let's allow this, if it's an outbreak, let it happen. It comes with a lot of good and a lot of bad. And
Sure.
I'm saying for us to experience an authentic rebirth of Africa and the black race, we have to go through situations that we can control and those that we cannot necessarily control. And I think that's what authenticity is about. Social change happens through culture. So there has to be t-shirts that are written in Thokozators for social awareness to be there and for us to move a certain direction. There has to be symbols, there has to be songs, there has to be signposts that are signaling a movement towards a certain direction. So obviously, with that comes those that are going to treat it like Christianity or like the church, that for me to fit in, I need to buy in JP and put it on. For me to be acceptable, I need to be able to say Togoza or maybe carry a snuff, all right? But in essence, we know what these symbols mean. We know what carrying snuff means. We know what NGP means. And we know that as this individual plays around with these symbols, they are bound to awaken energies within their psyche, within their spirit, and those energies are going to ask of them to begin to see themselves differently. So I appreciate it, and I'm happy for it. The fact that you're also going to get a Gobela who takes advantage of someone who does not necessarily have a calling to Twasa, but they simply look good at the real. That is a sad case, of course. And I think it comes with, it's also a learning process for those two particular souls, for them to learn through that. But is there an awakening? Yes, there is. Is there a signal that ancestors once more are taking their position in our social makeup? Yes, because for a very long time we have hidden them. Our places of prayer have been in dark spaces, they've been in closets, they've been in bedrooms, and we shut doors. And it is for this reason that we have not been able to experience blessings, because our petitions and our prayers and our meditations are in secret, you see. But these very beings that we are interacting with secretly are also in charge of the trees and the rain and the earth and the houses and the cars.
Mm.
So if you're going to hide a particular ancestor that is supposed to bless you with rain, what do you mean? You see that? So yeah, so there's an awakening. I remember, just in conclusion, I mean, I remember when we got out of the voting system in 1994, and as the young people of South Africa, we did not know how to be young, what it means to be young, how we need to behave. And our immediate inclination was to copy the American culture, Martin, Boys in the Hood, and. So it
Yeah.
makes me excited to see us beginning to define ourselves for who we are. And lo and behold, Americans are coming to Africa to get initiated. They're beginning to identify with our culture and our awakening. So the Nigerian spiritual systems, the Ifas, have long been on the platform. The Voodoos have long been on the platform. And it's
Yes.
really to see us also becoming active participants in the world stage.
Here's a question. It says, what is your take on these shows that are now being televised and showing us the side Africanism, King WRT, anyway, rewrites, polygamy, just how they tackle Badimu and Christianity. I don't know if you want to answer that, Vusi.
Okay, what I can say is that firstly, these shows are on Moja Love, right? And there's we can't hide the fact that the channel tries to trigger people for views. So honestly, that's all there is.
About it
You
that
know,
way. Yeah.
no, the aim of it is to trigger people into reacting. And with each show, they always have to go more extreme because we get used to this, then we get used to that, we get used to this, so they always have to sort of turn it up.
Yeah.
But in general, I think the South African media has done a terrible job in how it portrays spirituality, because the minute you know that there's a sangoma on a certain show, you know what's about to happen. It's always going to be a very typical thing. But it's something that I don't really want to talk about as such, because there isn't much to talk about. They're going for trending. They need a hashtag. It needs to happen fast. There's no deeper way. It's the low budget shows that need to turn over a lot of viewership. And the only way you can do that is to trigger people. And a lot of the time they're using the black woman as the tool to do that. The way ultimately what the person who gets brutalized the most in these shows is the black woman. For whatever thing, ultimately the common denominator is how much you can harm the black woman for entertainment. So for me, that's really nothing to actually engage on. But in terms of your question about spiritual awakening, I think there's the popular sort of social media aspect of it, which seems to always ultimately mean that a person has to alotwasa eventually. Whereas if I speak from my personal point of view, in my spiritual journey for the past 7 or so 8 years, 90% of the work that I've had to do personally has been healing family lineages, my own lineages, for example. A lot of the things that I've had to do was in repairing my spiritual history, my family spiritual history. Yeah, but because it for whatever reason, it has come down to me to sort of
How did you heal?
doing this.
What do you mean you had to heal it?
For example, it involves a lot of it doesn't even necessarily involve like spiritual things. It's about trying to find my family history, right? When you find out certain like for example, something that happened recently within the past 3 weeks, even right up until yesterday, is that let's say my grandmother, there's been a specific story that has been told about my grandmother, that has sort of defined my family, my paternal grandmother, that has sort of defined my family. By my family, I mean my father and me, and that particular branch of the family. And I've had to then find out specific information about that history, and it turns out that the history that has been taught in my family is actually not what has been told, right? To the extent where I would have dreams where I would, let's say, my grandmother would show me letters that were shown, but they were hidden somewhere, and I could go home and I would find those letters, and those letters would actually dispel rumors that said this and this happened, and now I would have factual things that would say, no, this is actually not what happened to the family. This is what happened. This is the actual history. That is not what happened. So in physical ways, I would then have to have meetings with family and say, this and this that happened to that great grandmother, that's not what happened. We need to change that narrative, because those people are coming to me and saying, you need to correct this misinformation about me, right? You need to correct this. There was this rift that happened between these two family members, and this is the reason why it happened, and you need to do that. So this would involve anything from cleansings to rituals, but most of the time it's about physical work of me trying to find information, setting up meetings, talking to people. And even in the process of putting together my podcast, it's like 50% of what goes on in the research was what ends up in the podcast. 50% of it is my personal story that sort of then unravels. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I read something
yeah.
as well. As people, when you are the chosen one, right? It becomes unfortunate to you must fight for your whole family, and you're not even fighting for you, or you're not just even living for you. You know what I mean? Makhanya spoke about how the rebirth comes, and you are now introduced as somebody else. You know what I mean? And there's so much of you that you have to carry, and you're introduced to all these people, But before we get into that, maybe the next question kind of leads into the same conversation, to say, Usbongile says, I would like to know the difference between idlozi netonga. Mkhulu Makhanya, I don't know if maybe you want to take that, because I think that becomes more of a spiritual thing.
So in our cosmology, it's a hierarchy, and idlozi would be, okay. Let me just first state it among the history writers and the people that are tracing our cosmology. It's a huge debate. Some say idlozi is this, some say Tonga is that. So I will explain it from my understanding. Uguti Itonga are those that are connected to us, to our lineage, right? Both immediate and long term. And the Idlozi are entities that purely belong to Umenzi. And Christians would call them angels. And when that is translated into Vanek, Ingelosi or Mangeloyi. So we know that Mangeloyi or Ingelosi are words that are derived from the church, from English, which is angel. But Idlosi are messengers of the Supreme Being. They have been then given the right to also be referred to as gods. They are part of the cabinet of the Creator. Then they, we get different roses specializing in different offices. So as you sit there, you probably have 7. One is in charge of your love life, one money, energy, one.
So they're all different. It's not just one.
No. In fact, there are a lot of them. All right. So each those are basically angels, and then Itonga are those that we normally refer to as amadlozi, like we in Christians. Yes. But that's then the standing debate.
Okay, that's very interesting. It's I think I'm also interested in the fact where you're saying that they're all different they're all responsible for different things in our lives. You know what I mean? So a lot of us, and among it, a lot of us, I will then generalize it to the community right now and social behavior. Ne? A lot of us, I mean, will join these groups on Facebook. You know, we'll talk about spirituality. Example, salt and vinegar challenge. You know, all of that happened. That was big. You know, and for people that understand idlozi or amatonga, I'll call it that. You kind of want to step back from these things because you know that the pros and the cons, you know what I mean? And you know that you need to be spiritually strong for certain things and whatnot. You spoke about, okay, there's a question here about what is the purpose of Impepo? And then please just answer the next question. So you spoke about Uguti, because of society, ngizohamba ngiyothenga injeti ngiyifake, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, hey, ngiphupe ama-beads, you know what I mean? Ngiyahamba ngiyafaka, you know, without a gobela. Do we always need a gobela for these things? What is the process when people say I am now dreaming? You know, because when we do dreams, so shisimpepo mina ngikhule ekhaya kuthiwa shisimpepo uksusimoya emibi and all of those things, but now I have a different understanding for Impepo. So what's the angazi if there is a process for everybody, you know, but I mean, for me, I can explain my process because I know how I was guided. But what is the process for omunye umuntu who comes up and says, I've either dreamt or hey, so I need to carry on. Yeah.
I don't want us to start assuming that our journey is the same.
Mm-hmm.
It is for this reason that when someone says to me, I dreamt of beads, and I say, we must wait for ancestors to probably confirm 3 times for us, if indeed these beads are something that are supposed to belong to you. Even after the ancestors have confirmed 3 times and you purchase them, you're going to take them, put them on your altar or on your space of prayer. You don't put them on as yet. And then you're going to say, here are the beads. And I have bought them. And what do you need them for? Okay? People need to realize the huge amount of responsibility that comes with taking up the office of being a healer. You don't want to just have a dream and then wake up in the morning, run, get beads, run, get injeti, put them on, and then you start baking like 4 by 5, and then you start attaching names and labels to yourself. That is a very, very big responsibility you're taking up. And so alignment also is a very critical part of the work that we do. We have to know, almost Nyanga or Sangoma or whatever, the question is always, who are you aligned to and who is sending you to do this work? That being is responsible for the energy that they invest in your life, and how you spend that energy is also important, you see. So people normally think we don't want them to twasa or to respond to these things. We don't want them to wear beads, and it's not about who wants what. But my problem is when I want my journey to look like your journey, and then because we're Nukobela wako uti, you know, 6, Nami, I need to eat it with. We are different souls. And the reason why I always want to create gaps and spaces in between dreams, in between rituals, to say, let's take it slow, is because I want people's journey and uniqueness to come out, so that we see what your soul is made of, what your soul is trying to say to us, you know? And I mean, Brother V is a classic example who's been working with ancestors, and see how uniquely ancestors express themselves through his life. And I have not seen anyone that does Ubinyanga the way that he does it, you see? But for me, that's what I'm looking for. I want to see your uniqueness, the authenticity of your journey, what makes you different, what is it your ancestors are trying to say. So unfortunately then, with Ukwasa, with social media, you know, I open a group and then I become the Gobela online. Then people just take what I do and they run with it. So I also feel it's important to differentiate between material that is there to create an awareness and material that is there to actually be a direct response to people's unique situations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite deep. Vusi?
Yeah. I think it's I'm very very fortunate in that I've found my lane, so to say. I
Yes.
found not just staying in it, but I found how I found my path was I was following my creative gifts, for example, because I think when we talk about a calling, and with the eventuality of ukutwasa, there's a sense that your gift is somewhere waiting for you, or your particular work is somewhere out there. Uzohamba uyotwasa, then you'll be given your work to say, now this
Yes.
is now your purpose in life. You know what I mean? And I think I'm fortunate in that I've found that without having to go through, ukutwasa, for example. I know specifically what it is that I need to do. I know what work they've given me to do, right? And this is something that
Does that
came
make you
about.
real? Sorry, does that make you real? Because hawatwasa and the stigma around ubungoma is meluyo twasa, or you have to have a
You
kobela. I
see,
mean, the
this
question
is
here is, how do you know when you take on a spiritual healer or a sangoma, and do they differ?
this is the thing. I don't like, personally, I don't like talking about the topic about ukutwasa and all of those things, because I feel like it cancels out so many people, right? Because we don't there's we've come to believe that there's a very specific way to be a healer, right? In that you have to have dreams, you have to have a very troubled life, you have to suffer a lot, and eventually then you'll find someone, you'll go a petlweni, you'll suffer for like 3 months, 6 months, and then after that
doesn't treat you right,
and yeah, and you're gonna have this, and women are gonna get raped, and this is gonna happen, and that's gonna happen, and then afterwards there's you're gonna spend 100,000 rand, and then but my thing is that I was given gifts, right? I'm a creative, and this is how it is through this work that my people communicate with me, right? It started out with a photography where I would go and document ceremonies, right? And I was following photography, okay? I wasn't following ubungoma. I wasn't following dreams. I wasn't following beads. I wasn't following amapai. I was following a gift that I was given to say, you use photography to tell the story of our people, right? Use photography to tell the story of our spirituality. It was in that context then I found what it is that I was supposed to do. Okay. And I found that my gift fits perfectly. It clicks with the work that I'm supposed to do, right? I've been given these tools, which are my gifts, whether photography, writing, whatever, and they function within that space. And so I don't necessarily need to talk about ukutwasa and whatever, in the sense that I'm already doing the work. And one of the challenging things that I had to do was just to let go of the outcomes and of saying, so what's going to happen? Do I have to go this out? Do I have to go that? Right now, the journey unfolds by itself, and I'm sort of, I made a deal with myself to say, even if it takes 10 years, 20 years, if it does happen that I need to go, even if it's in 50 years time, I'm in no rush to get to that point. But they have given me work to do right now. I don't have to sit and wait for Ukobela to say, okay, now you have this or you have that. And I think this is something that I would really, really want people to take note of. Like, not to say abandon your calling, but let go of this intense thing that we have for the outcome of saying, I want to be a sangoma. Like, there are things that you can do now within your calling, right? It's very, like, they won't call you, I believe that you won't be called to do something that is not almost a natural ability of yours. You might not have discovered it, but it's something that's already built into you, you know, and healers
a lot of
occupy different spaces.
So sorry, a lot of the times you'll find that there's this war between religion and healing and ubungoma and why I'm saying this is because ke tlo ya kerekeng ke le katlego ne ha ke ya kerekeng ba tlo ntjwetsa gore I've got healing powers ne healing powers meaning tshwantse ke rapelle batho and ha ke re kerekeng I'll talk about the westernized churches so Luther Methodist cause nako ga ke godile ke ya ko Luther right and now because I'm dreaming and I'm now exploring this world of ubungoma or Africanism, you know what I mean? Where do the two link? You know, I mean, I had a fallout with a cousin of mine who doesn't speak to me now because she's like, how do you believe in God or in Jesus and you still believe in ancestors? It doesn't make sense.
Okay, for me, I think it's a and this is something that I cover on the first 3 episodes of my podcast. In there's a entire history to how we as Black South Africans came to find Christianity as being superior to our beliefs and ancestors. And a lot of the time in our generation, even our parents, when they stigmatize African spirituality, it's they basically doing something that they were taught. I don't fight much with Christians or people who don't believe, because I think you because a lot of the time when you have to argue with them, you have to reduce the topic to be a very, very narrow thing. Like, okay, I'm only going to speak about, but once you sort of find the history of it, there's a lot more, for example,
history.
There is a history. And for me, because of the information that I found, it's very difficult for me then to engage and say, no, you are wrong. My ancestors are not demons. They're not this, they're not that. It's like, sorry, it's a very difficult, it's almost a pointless argument to have. I personally don't have anything against Christianity. A lot of people who are actually very important to me are Christians. A lot of people that I look up to in terms of spirituality are Christians, So I think the challenge, I suppose, then comes in the sense of you have a calling, as but your mother disapproves. And that literally then breaks a whole family apart.
Yes.
There's many layers to what is the connection between Christianity and African spirituality, because there is no such thing as African spirituality. There's no such thing. The people.
So, Askies, can you give us like another 10-15 minutes or so just to respect people?
Okay.
And I know it's a conversation going,
right.
And people are really interested, but just to respect you as my guest, please can we just give it another 10-15 minutes?
Okay. I'll just summarize. For example, the reason why I'm saying African spirituality doesn't exist is that the people who were here before the white people came didn't call this place Africa.
Sure.
Okay. That word is a very recent addition to our history. And the concept of people called the area they lived in, you know what I mean? People called the place according to whatever small corner of it that they lived in, or in to put it simply. And the concept of spirituality is also suggests something that is separate. And my understanding is that with African people, they didn't have those words where it was something that is separate. So at some point, it is not about Africans versus Europeans and this, white people versus black people. There is a history even beyond the race, So when you want to argue about Christianity versus the current our current beliefs, you have to confine it to the last 25 years or the last 30 years. You know what I mean? If you talk about our grandparents, it's like, the last 50 or 80 years. But this thing spans hundreds and hundreds of years.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying. It's difficult. If you want to argue about it, you're forcing me to argue about only now.
because of what
which is a pointless, yeah,
now.
what you understand right now.
From
Exactly.
whatever the history is, you know. Sure, okay, I think that needs its own topic, you know, separately, but also maybe to just kind of, I'm trying to get as many points in, you know. Mkhulu Makhanya, you also speak a lot about relationships, you know, and understanding the partners that you're with on social media and all those things, you know. And a lot of people, I mean, Mzoting, you're the educator, right? Because you then educate people on manifestations, what it means being in a relationship with a spiritual person, and all of that. You know what I mean? And a lot of us young people find ourselves in this rut of relationships, being with people, energies, and so forth and so forth. How do you usually deal with something like that? I mean, even when you come up with topics that you want to talk about on social media, what's the one element that kind of gets you to a point where you're saying, as in nine, and this is what you guys need to understand? I mean, there's a different language as well, you know, when it comes to the spirit and the soul, you know. How do those two kind of link together?
For me, it's very important to move towards healing, because when you are healed, then you stand a very good chance, or you create a very good opportunity for your life to evolve. So the black race, particularly in South Africa, we are millions of years behind with regards to our evolution and our spiritual growth, you know. You still see people who are fascinated by the fact that a human being can make it rain. We see it as an office that is designated for certain people. We still find a lot of people who embrace poverty and suffering, you know, that it is noble to be poor, to struggle, and to suffer. You still find a lot of people who believe that it is okay to live and exist and not know what your gift and purpose and calling is, you know. So we are behind in that sense. A majority of young black kids cannot play a musical instrument. That tells you that a lot of our inspiration will go unsung. You know, songs won't be written to put out our desires and experience of the world and where we want it to go, because our children cannot play musical instruments. So our evolution is based on who we choose to share our dreams with. And you find what you want to Jolana. Okay. So even if you guys are not intending to get married, but point is you are going to spend time together. You're going to have conversations together. And that is an opportunity for dreams to either take flight or to die. So my focus on relationships, on womb health, on two people serving a purpose of empowering each other goes beyond just the jola, you know. I mean, we see it in the township where people think they're flirting, and then boom, there's a baby in the picture. And when the baby's there, people are forced to begin to think like adults, you know. Okay, what's the baby's name going to be? Is this baby going to get baptized in the Christian church? If she doesn't, what does it mean? So you can see,
Yeah.
you can see there was no plan. What is our purpose? I mean, what is our process of creating and bringing souls into the planet? When you and I say we're going to have a baby, what do we have in mind? What is this being going to come and do in Fabeli, you know? So it is those things that we overlook and that we perceive to be serious, uptight, deep, adulty, boring, that are actually setting people back, you know? Before you even become a powerful role player in the black society as an individual, impilo yakho, i-relationship yakho, ikhawatha impilo yakho wena uyi-one, you know? So that's where my passion comes from. To say, if we can also get how we do relationships, then at least we stand a good chance of growing spiritually and then of becoming what? Healthy participants in the society of Black people, for us to stand a good chance of taking this race forward.
So what do you think shapes the team, the African communities? You know what I mean? I don't want to say Ubungoma, and yes, we spoke about finding ourselves, you know, but maybe it does go back to finding yourself again. So it goes back to that conversation to say you have to find yourself, you know. But just to also kind of maybe close down to the shows to say, what conversations do we need to be having, you know? And mangiti conversations meaning mina, so forget my kids. What conversations do I need to have with my own parents to get to a point, or abantu abadala, without them thinking ukuthi siyabadelela or any of that stuff, you know? What conversations do we need to be having so that mangicedile nabantu abadala, I've got my peers. From my peers, I'm then now moving down to abantwana, and mangithi abantwana meaning mine and the kids in the village at large, you know? What conversations do we need to start having?
So there is an assumption that because umuntu mdala, it means they know.
And they are right.
So yeah, and they are right. So if you want to take that approach, yabantu abadala, then you also need to be sensitive to the fact that some abantu abadala don't know. And because bangazi, it's embarrassing to say ngane amangazi, and then they start speculating. Okay, so contact abantu abadala when it's relevant, when you feel that it's going to serve the purpose. Okay, but other than that, unfortunately, nabazali bethu abazi. All right. But what conversations do we need to have? Obviously, different personalities, different callings are asking us to focus on different aspects of who we are. So from my perspective, healthy sexual relations, because I'm from the township, I'm going to use a crude term, right? Be conscious ukuthi udlana nobani. Okay, yes. That's the first reason. Secondly, you are conscious ukuthi ujola nobani. Okay, umuntu ojola naye odlana naye, it has to be clear ukuthi nenzani. You know, guys, dala bokune apartheid didn't have opportunities to go to malls, bokbora. So it was understandable for us to just shag and then make babies and then start on a tennis biscuit. Life was tough, but it's not like that. You know, our calling is higher now. We've got work to do. So when you get together with someone, what is the purpose of this meeting? What are we trying to achieve? Okay. And I'm not saying that the goal and purpose of all relationships should be marriage. You know, you can't get together with someone. Your calling and purpose could be to start a crash. And in that crash, our work is to introduce spirituality to our children. For example, we need maturity in our relationships. That is moja love material. We don't need that type of stuff. We need mature relationship. So you must also check the maturity. It's okay. If I start a car wash with this person and we decide finally which we're going to break up, you know, we don't want this drama. It is for this reason we have conversations around healthy sexual experiences, healthy relationships. That's what we need to have. The last point I want us to talk about is how do we feel the need to suffer and be poor in the Black community? We wear the thing with pride. Christians have taught us that it's so cool to be poor, you know? So we need to feel, we need to get to the consciousness of when we had a kraal full of cows, a kraal full of goats, a kraal full of sheep, you understand? So we are not going to become powerhouses if all we want to do is just make beads and earrings without necessarily positioning that business into a multi-million business or a multi-billion business. We won't be role players in the world. it will be just situation, and smoke weed and drink Black Label, and that's it. You see? So, yeah, that's my humble contribution.
So I want to say a lot about that, but we actually don't have the time. But I appreciate it because at the end of the day, we're not getting any younger. You know what I mean? And we have all these social media posts that go around that tell us, Guti, I mean, we are obviously connecting and building and collecting people's souls and energies and all of that. And I guess that is true. You know what I mean? As you grow, you start understanding, Guti, I mean, having sex with Uvusi or having sex with Makhanya means that now I'm carrying two people with me, you know, whether you realize it or you don't, you know. So I think that's something that, well, I've learned as well in my journey to say, you guys, we need to be very careful of the people that we choose in our lives, you know. And yes, sometimes people will see ukuthi namhlanje bengitshela no Vusi, I mean kusasa ngitshela no Makhanya, you know what I mean? It happens, but I guess the point you're trying to make is let's be more intentional about the decisions that we're making and think broader from that, you know. And maybe just from a closing point from you, Vusi, I don't know if there's anything you want to add or maybe anything you want to put out. I don't have anything specific for you, but just as a blanket based on the conversation that we've had. I know there's a lot we didn't touch on. I know there's a lot where there's still interlinks and intersections, you know, of all of that. But because we don't have the time, can we just kind of blanket it so that we can end the show as well?
I think what adding on to your question about what conversations do we need to be having, I think we need to be talking more about what is calling you. This is amongst our friends, within our relationships, like what is it that is calling you? And by that I mean not do you have a calling, you know, are you dreaming or your task, whatever, but what is that thing that is gnawing at you, you know, that thing that you can't seem to be able to shake, something that you really, really want to do. And if you know, what is that you, and this is, I think the more we can have that conversation, it's the braver we will be able to heal, because I personally think that our healing lies in our gifts, and our gifts not in the gift of having a calling by the ancestors, but the gifts that we're given to bring onto this earth. So if we can focus on that, if we can talk more about that, and how then do you develop because your gift ultimately is going to benefit people. Your gift that you've been given has been given to you to bring into this earth to better people. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be, you know, consulting with people. You can be a musician, you can be an artist, you can be an accountant, whatever it is. I think that is where our healing lies within that, because that is how then we are going to basically resurrect Black people.
Yeah. So there's a question that there's a question that one of the viewers asked, which I found very intriguing. On her page is to say, if you were to come back in your next life, right? What do you think you'd come back as? You know, and my answer was, I think I'd come back as a teacher, because as much as I don't see the money, and I'm going to say the money because in society it means everything you do must be monetary, and you know everything is. But for me, I think I honestly would come back as a teacher, because there's so much I feel that I do teach and I do learn. Ne? And weirdly enough, I was saying this on the Wednesday show, Ugutim, all these topics that we've had, right, on this platform. Yes, there are topics that we think of out of the blue. Okay, what conversations do we want to have with our friends? But some way or the other, they always link up to something big enough, you know? And a lot of people are saying, this is such a broad topic. There's so much to talk about. There's so much that people want to know, you know? But what would you come back as, Mkhulu Makhanya? And then Vusi, that's your answer. Then we can just close it off. What do you think your next? I mean, yes, you are in another lifetime, you know, but if you were to think about it, like, what do you think your role in society would be?
I have a So I would ask you, truth or story? So if I had to tell you the truth,
Okay.
it is my desire not to come back. This is my last incarnation.
Okay.
I want to go to I want to reincarnate in another plane, and
Okay.
that is my goal. That
Yeah.
I came to just get 100 people that I can show passages in order for us to leave this planet and go reincarnate in a better planet.
Sure.
But if really my ancestors sat down and said, I need to come back here, I would do it again. I'd come back as a spiritual teacher.
As a healer as well. Nice one. What would you come back as?
Whatever I need to come back as, my only ask is that I find my gifts earlier than I did.
Wow.
My hope is that I am born into a family that would recognize my gifts early on, so that I don't waste time. Yeah, so that we don't waste time. Like we get to the work, Yeah, straight out the gate, we get to it. So whatever, it doesn't honestly matter to me what it is. As long as I would know what I'm there for sooner than I did this time around, then everything will be fine.
Oh my gosh, I wish I could carry on with this conversation and go on and on and on. I think because it's so dear to me and I have so many questions, and not even just about spirituality, but having to learn that as an African child, there's so much history behind us. And I was never a child that liked history. Weirdly enough, when you go into the spirit world, you start questioning things that you didn't even know existed or that you never thought about. You know what I mean? But thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking your time for doing the show. Yes, I could go on. I would Makhanya. Vusmuzi. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people will probably still engage with you on social media platforms, but let's be open to the conversation. Let us remain teachers, and let us carry on with the great work, that we're doing, as individuals, and as teachers and healers. So thank you so much from the Around the Table conversation.
Bravos.
Yes.
Are you selling the spears yet?
Hey, wait. Scout and Kenya Mokone. Scan Tlama.
Yo, and he does such perfect work with those spears.
Yeah. When I answer my voice notes, then I'll tell you when I'm selling.
Oh, okay, I see it. But anyway, guys, the Wednesday show is going to be an open mic show. It will literally be whatever questions that you want to ask or that you've been meaning to ask on the show, and we will answer as best as possible, So from us to you, thank you so much for spending an hour and a half with us. Thank you so much for the knowledge and the insights. Mkhulu, so thank you and have a lovely evening, everyone.
Thank you.